let's open up and ask ourselves, what does edification truly mean to me, to you, on a day-to-day basis? Can some of you open up and share? What does it really mean to you? We know what the definition of edification is. Who's uncertain of that? You're clear on that? Okay. What does it mean to you, and where do you apply it, and how do you apply it? I'm stretching your muscles a bit here today. Where do you apply it, and how do you apply it?
So I would say, David, that you apply it in every sphere of your life, every quadrant of your life, with the people in your life, whoever you are interacting with, and how you treat them, how well you receive them is edification.
Let me
It could,
deep dive on that. I'm going to stop as we go through. Let me deep dive on that. How you treat them. Can you elaborate that, please?
yeah, because we tend to have a superiority complex sometimes with ourselves,
Hmm.
and we don't treat them right. We don't treat them as our equal. Sometimes, even as a doctor, when somebody comes in front of me and if they have not behaved properly, I used to always, judge them, but now I've become different. So I edify my patient that it's all right if your sugars are high, or if your BP is high, and if you're having bad health, and if you're depressed, it's okay. I don't blame them for that. So I edify my patient. I edify the people in my life. Edify my husband a lot. I edify my children. Last night at 12 o'clock in the night, I was having a conversation with my son, and usually, if I want to say something to my son, I always take out time, and I fit in that he should not be busy. And then I want to talk to him. But the way of edifying my son was yesterday that he was sitting alone in that hall. And I took the opportunity to talk to him, to praise him, to edify him. And then I said whatever I wanted to tell him without being condescending. That's what I feel. That's what I feel my bird of edification means to me.
How true. How true. And I'm going to stretch on it. It's interesting you open up the subject that way, because the key area that when we talk about edification is not just ourselves or the people we interact with. From a medical perspective, patient doctor relationship, husband wife relationship, family relationship, all of it has got one key determinant, and that's called communication. Now, verbal and non-verbal, that's the key element. Many do not understand it. Even if you sit back and reflect on some of the points that were talked of last night at Mastermind, and you reflect on those things and you see how certain people make inferences and comments and how others make inferences and comments, it is actually giving that element of trust, that element of respect, that element of upliftment for that individual or that group of people. Now, as a person, you have a huge responsibility, especially in a community. The key element between a doctor-patient relationship is trust. And so the same applies in a lot of other areas. You take any profession. You take law, for example. Why are some lawyers so much better than others? It's the way they navigate through their communication. So in our daily life, we take a lot for granted. And we go into the default mechanism of assuming. Edification is about that. If you look at the ancestry of, I'll not say, I've forgotten you, Deepak, I'll come to you. If you see the ancestry of edification, it actually evolves from the old form of us giving respect, giving, and indirectly today we look at that more as a way of not edifying, but in those days it used to be, we used to adore people. We used to adore statues. We used to adore, and that, in my view, is not the true context of edification. Edification underlying fact is respect, built from trust and value. So whatever you say, verbally and in particular non-verbally, is a sign of edification. So how you look at things is a sign of edification. So your exposure, your lack of exposure, can cause you to look at it differently. Last night, Nadeem brought up a subject about that cross-culture sensitization. Now, there are so much you can deep dive into that to understand. That scenario in itself, in the earlier days, was just poo-pooed out. But today, there's a whole subject being created on that to explain cross-culture sensitization. In fact, they run lectures on it. In fact, some companies are so pedantic about it because they want to ensure that when they are going into another country, the territorial boundaries that they've left to come to India or wherever they're operating from, they're giving respect to the culture, they're giving respect. So therefore, they do the following things. Why does a French company come in and light a flame? Renault does that in every event. Do you get my message? Now, that whole signification of what they've done is the sign of edification. Many of us have taken a lot of this for granted. Even when you respond, the way you respond to whether it's a question or whether it's a conflict or whether it's a feedback is edification. When we had given feedback to many people, how some people had responded to it, it's a clear sign. Firstly, obviously, the cup is not full. Secondly, how have they accepted it? How much of kudos do they give to that positioning, not the person, that position when that message is passed on to them? That's edification. So when you are in the ultimate of doing that, you cross all boundaries of what Alka started off by saying, the hierarchy system. And we commonly refer to it as the ego system. There's no such signs of ego in an edification process. It just disseminates. And that simplicity, that humility of respecting, of talking up a position, a situation, an individual is how you climb up that influence factor ladder. That's what this whole process of edification is supposed to give you. It is not to big note yourself. So when you are at that base level, understanding that, and when you understand the chemistry that I explained yesterday of how the brick, the cement, the sand, the port, all of that mixed together to get you the right texture for the construction of that building, you now then understand what you've got to do to be at that pinnacle of edification. You cannot compromise here, because that is what they call charisma. I hope you're getting this message. Many do not understand. They want to get all these branding things done without understanding the fundamentals of charisma coming from within. And that's what creates you. When you walk into the room, does the light come on? Or is the room still dim? Think about it. So, with all of this, I now throw the question at you again. In your daily life, how have we inculcated this edification? Reflect on it in every activity that you're doing, in everything that you're saying. If you go back to my definition of communication, you'll understand that in itself is the epitome of edification. Not because I created that definition, but because the words in it mean so much. Communication in any relationship, is like blood to life. That's the amount of respect you give. Communication in any relationship is like blood to life. You take blood away from life, what happens to life? It dies. You take communication away from a relationship, what happens to a relationship? It dies. So that's the baseline. And we are in that state. When we are in that state, you now understand you have a good room to maneuver through and pass your message across such that the respect is still retained, but more important, that you have in no way belittled or tried to get the person to feel small, situation to feel small, circumstance to feel small. Hope this makes sense. So just very quickly, I'm going to go through this platform again one more time. What is one area that you're going to focus on this week, for example, the weekend, in trying to fine-tune this whole concept of edification? Anybody?
I'd like to say something that this edification is so much hand in glove with men. So, when you see good in everything, you will automatically talk good, see good, hear good. And there is no space for complaint, cribbing. If you consider yourself a jar where every good thought, word, deed, edification that you do for people is added in, and every negative thought, every grumbling, every cribbing is one point out. See whether your jar is getting full or is it getting more depleted. Become conscious of it on a daily basis before going to bed. In the night, is the weighing scale heavier on the good thoughts, good words, good deeds, or on the other side, you're cribbing? And when you get into the, getting that, what is the right word? Improvement of your own mind, body, soul, you can't bring down somebody else and become big yourself. You take people with you. To grow, you can't grow alone. You grow when you take people with you. Thank you. I just wanted to share that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Devas. Going back to the question I asked of each person, reflect and share with us what is one area you're going to focus on for that self-improvement in relation to edification. Before we deep dive into that, Deepa, yeah, your question, please.
Sorry, David, I didn't have a question. Actually
please.
wanted to share
Yeah.
my thoughts on edification. So I'm a very blah blah kind of a person. Over a period of time, I've realized that when I'm talking, it is not always a value addition. So things have come down where I have restricted my talk to limit myself to some. Whenever I talk, I add value to the conversation or give information. Now with MRM, it is even more filtered. As Nawaz was saying, even I had that thought that NENN is actually a process which filters that down. So now with NENN and the purpose thing coming more aligned, it is filtered to an extent that it's not just a value and an information addition. I also look at the outcome as a positive outcome, and I'm contributing positively when I'm having a conversation rather than just, talking, which is usual to me, my nature. So edification in that, daily life, when you're saying, it's that process for me where I'm filtering my conversation before I uh, open my mouth. The second is openness to feedback. This also I learned during these sessions. You've been, you have highlighted many times in terms of being open to feedback which people are giving, and being taking it positively. So that's also, this is for me as well, and an area which can be improved a lot, because at times when feedback is coming, especially from a family member, you tend to, or somebody who's younger than you in age, you tend to say, oh, you tend to defend yourself more. But then that is an area of improvement that I see I can improve on.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. I am going to touch on a territory that I normally do not do it publicly, but I want to share this because it was a case situation relating with Deepa. I hope you don't mind me sharing this,
No.
and the rest will learn from it. When I landed in Chennai to do the talk, Deepa was not there, but Usha was there. And Usha was very hospitable. I mean, she was so good. She came pick me up at the airport, but more importantly, she brought me a cup of ginger tea because she's heard this ginger tea floating around in India. But so I was drinking that, and we went to that event for the customs hall. And Deepa came in just prior to lunch, I think, or something like that, a bit late. And Usha came running to me and she said, "Oh, David, Deepa has just arrived. I don't know if she will." And she kept quiet. I went ahead and started talking. And as soon as I finished, Deepak stood up and she went to the back somewhere to address or extenuate, emphasize what I was saying in a different way. And Deepak and Usha came and held my hand. I hope she doesn't say something. David, I don't know, she's not even attended some of this. And I said, Usha, it's okay. Let go. So when you're saying blah, 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 that's the first thing that went through my mind. See, that's the impression that people have already created. Do you understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And in the course of doing that, good has come out because she handled herself very well. But now I'm saying this from the point of view of Deepak recognizing she was a person such as that, and now she's not. She's enhanced her ability. Yeah, salute to you. And but the fearful thing is you got to now understand how people have got first impressions of you. And you only got 12 seconds, guys. You only got 12 seconds to create that impression or break that impression. Understand that. Oh, you're saying 3 seconds. Okay. I'm generous by giving you 4 times more than what I'll cover.
Yeah,
I hope.
I wanted to share. Yeah.
Yes, please, Nadeem.
So now in every action, whatever I'm going to do, I will be aware of my communication with others. I'll be aware of my body language and verbal and non-verbal communication. And I will work on that, how I can improve that.
Nadeem, has this helped you with the amount of fights that used to happen?
Which fights?
The day before you're mentioning verbal fights. Having this consciousness, do you think it can help?
Yeah, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's the key point. So when we understand where this can take us, you're sacrificing a lot. Very honestly, you'd be sacrificing a lot to be at that state. Do you understand? But the enhancement, the return is higher.
David, I just
please.
realized there's a area and a very big scope for me to get better is my communication with my grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
I think I tell them more of what they should not do rather than what they should do. And I'm aware of it, but I was not aware that I was doing this to my grandkids. And when Deepa was talking just now, it hit me like an arrow, saying that, Nawaz, you do it pretty often, I think. So I'll be very conscious now of telling them what to do, not telling them what not to do. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. There's always, every day, one major learning that takes us slowly and slowly, step by step up the ladder. Thank you, David.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I just want to share. Yesterday, there is a group in my family group. So all the senior people in that group, they were posting, uh, street dogs are doing this, that, and all. So suddenly, all the youngsters they started becoming angry. They said, "You have to love the dogs. You have to care for them." So there's so much of communication was happening. So what I realize is, once you become certain age, your learnings and all is in one manner. Like in religion and all, they say you have to follow this. Why you have to follow? They don't explain. They say you have to follow this. You have to do this prayer. So I was telling my mother, like, if you want to communicate to someone, youngsters who doesn't have any background or this thing, so you have to come down to explain them why they have to follow certain rituals or something to get what they want. So normally we as elders, so they say you have to pay God. Why you have to pay God? What it is going to get? They don't explain. They say if you don't do this, you are going to get this punishment. You are going to get that punishment. So the fear they'll try to give. So I was telling, if you give the pleasure of doing whatever, then you
Yeah.
don't need to behind them.
Um,
Yeah, this is what I just want to share.
very true. But you see, you also need to empathize here. Uh, I'm referring to when you say older, even my parents, all parents, they knew what
Yes,
they knew and they did their best based on what they were aware of.
right.
And that we need to respect that. But unfortunately, times have changed. But the younger generation might not be in a position to understand, have that emotional sensitivity to understand that. So therefore, it's our role to ensure we can explain in a way that they can comprehend, appreciate, digest it, and then look at making their own decisions from there. So this is a key vital area because there's a lot of things. For example, I give you simple things that our culture used to say. You should not sweep at night. And we never understood it. Just don't do it, is what they used to say because they could not explain it. And similarly, little idiosyncrasies that we thought were idiosyncrasies, but in actual fact, there was a reason why they used to ask us to do things like that. But we never understood it. But in time, in hindsight, we understand now there is a scientific reason why that is said. And when we understand that, the whole basis of that particular context or concept shifts. Thank you, Nadeem. Jyoti, very quickly, yeah, and Miriam.
So, about edification and way of greeting. So most of the
Ah,
Asian countries we have way of greeting by bowing down, folded hands.
yes,
So namaste means the soul in me respects the soul in me.
yeah,
So all these things were ingrained in us. So
yes,
unfortunately, uh, new generation is not following such things. So it was
mm-hmm,
a kind of affirmation. So whether somebody is at higher level or lower level, we
mm,
start with this kind of affirmation that everybody has full potential, and that's why my soul respects your soul.
yeah, so true.
Yeah,
So true. And,
thank
and that's percolated into business communities. If you look at greeting in a Japanese environment, business environment, I'm talking about, the lower they bow, the more respect they give. And they do that intentionally, especially when you're negotiating. They do that intentionally to make sure that the bow is to such an extent that the other person understands it. Yes, Miriam, please.
Oh, sorry. Hi, thanks, David. Morning, everyone. I just wanted to share, for me, is edifying people in thought, because the ego can drive the way you edify people in terms of language, and it's the thought that is expressed in terms of our nonverbal language. And it's, for me, it's about edifying people that society generally does not edify. And that, for me, is an area of practice. And just now, I was on the grandchildren. I think I edify them by noticing what they do well more than what they're not doing well.
Right. Good. Excellent.
Thank you, Mariam.
All right. Thank you for the day, and I do hope you move forward with this concept of edification in your life. Thank you.